of Nigeria. And we're president today, given everything that's going on, fiscal challenges, security situation, and all that. Can you give us 3 immediate reforms that you would do? Say you're president, in 100 days, what are the things, 3 things you think you want to have done?
Well, let me start by thank you for inviting me and for the opportunity. I wish I was in the morning to listen to the debate. Maybe I would have learned a lot from it because leadership was all about learning. But if you look at what is happening in Nigeria today, I think the number one priority of anybody who have opportunity of serving should be security of life and property. Number 2 is to look at how do you measure development. There's a simple and most important measure of development is Human Development Index, which have just simple 3 components. First is health, life expectancy. 2 is education. 3 is pulling your people out of poverty. And you focus on the 3. By the time you're dealing with the insecurity that is in Nigeria today, which actually you can fight using dealing with pulling your people out of poverty. If you look at the insecurity we have in Nigeria, some people will tell you issues. If I use northern Nigeria, for example, where Western people are saying, there's no insecurity, you have a poverty problem. Because having operated in the system for a while, you find out that there's mass poverty, which you need to invest in to pull people out. Because the more you pull people out of poverty, the more you reduce criminality. So you're investing in that, you're dealing with the insecurity that is there, you're investing in education, you're pulling the people out of, you have massive out of school children, massive uneducated class across the country. Look at your literacy level, you need to update it. And that is areas you need to deal with the issue of health and everything. We have today a situation where we've overtaken India that is 7 times our population in infant mortality. And when you have the problem of infant mortality, for those of you where, it's because your primary health care have collapsed. So there's no health care in villages and everything. These are things that are not, you need to focus on. And the more you do that,
The country will be safer.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So to tackle insecurity, we have to fix economic development. But you know as well, one of the issues as we have in Nigeria is elite capture. Somebody says they want to run for office, they get into power, and then they are beholden to all the people who help them get into office. And that, with all of this vested interest, you might not be able to carry out some of the reforms that you want. I suppose my question for you is, how, if you were to be president today, and I'm interviewing you, hoping that you are, but but if you were to be president today, how would you dismantle the elite sort of capture that we have in the country in a way that will not destabilize the country?
Well, let me tell you, I'm happy that one of us who have been in office is here. There's nothing called elite capture. You have to capture yourself first. If you're not part of it, you can dismantle it. Because it's like people telling you you can't fight corruption. I disagree. If you are not stealing, your wife, I make emphasis, is not stealing, your children are not stealing, you reduce it by 50%. I have served as a governor. If you are not stealing, because for people to steal, you have to be stealing first. Because you have to approve what they'll steal. So if your own is good, then everybody will add his own. But if your own is not there, everybody will be scared to put it. The same thing goes with the elite capture. If people see you doing the right thing, there's no way they will support you. There's no way, because you could see it. You could even see the gaps that are there and everything. In a country like Nigeria, which I used to, just like I talk about Africa, we have all the potentials to be a great nation. So nobody can tell you that, oh, Nigeria is hungry. No, you can't say that. Because we have all it takes to pull ourselves out of there. Nigeria doesn't have this, we have all it takes. So the elite captures that if you don't, you yourself have to say, listen, this is where we're going, this is what we want to achieve. And when people see you going the right path, they will. I've been in office where initially people didn't understand what I'm doing. And I was impeached. I was removed from office to one. But the moment people knew what I was doing, they agreed with me. That's why I always say to people when they said, why were you impeached in the nation? Initially, I said, well, listen, at times you become a driver, driving passengers who have since passed their destination. They didn't know where you're going, but you're going to a better destination. Well, because they passed their destination, they pushed me out of the car. But the moment they knew that I was going to a better place, they followed me.
That's very good. Because you mentioned impeachment, and which sort of means that you have principles and your values, and you're willing to compromise on the interests of the people, essentially. But we also know that elections are won as a result of alliances, compromises, across various political interests. I would ask you, you're a very principled man, and being principled is necessary. But what sort of compromises do you think that you can make to get, I suppose, a stronger coalition, not like the one that you already have is not strong enough, to be able to win the elections or elections in general?
Well, if you look at Nigeria to the Africa in general, there's need for alliances, there's need to come together and everything. But I always say, let's have alliances, let's have all of us coming together against poverty, against hunger, against insecurity, and there's people who are thinking along the same line. We can no longer have coming together or forming alliances to continue the crime scene. It must be alliances to dismantle where we find ourselves today and start building a nation that will benefit everybody, especially the poor. And if that is working, of course, there's so many people who think like that. People knew or are aware of our problems, and now we will come together, we can solve that. And there are things that you can see, you can feel it, that people want to do the right thing. And I can tell you, I always tell people, those who want to do the right thing are far greater than those who are doing the right thing. But you know what happens that when you want to bring a change, it has happened to me as a state governor. You have for enemy all those who live on the old order because they will gang together. And then you have those who don't believe whether you will succeed. So they don't want to take risk with you because they tell you, you're going to do this. I see that even every day. People say, they're going to kill you. This thing you're doing is wrong. This thing you're doing is not. Like when I was impeached, people say, it's that you're going back for impeachment. You have to stop doing things the way you used to do it. You cannot question everything. You cannot question that. But I always tell people, last year, 2023, when I was contesting for election for the office of the president, my head of service then, a very, I don't know how to describe her, very, very well educated lady, wrote a topic. I think she passed through Cambridge. he wrote an article which he said, I wrote an article which he wrote, it titled Stinginess as a development strategy. And people who read it said, because when I came, everyone said, oh, he's stingy, oh, he's doing this, because I kept saying, why are we doing this? No, we can't continue this. We don't have money for this. Why would Governor of Anambra State have a lodge in Abuja? No, we don't live in Abuja, so we have to shut it down. And he's doing like that. Why are we going to have an office in Lagos? Why are we going to have presidential lodge? The president doesn't live here. So why are we going to do that? Shut it down. Why are we going to have this and all that? And everybody quarreled with it. I say things that people don't even like. Why are we going to have office of first lady? Nobody voted my wife. My wife, two of us live in the same house. So we're not going to create an office for her. Because what is the office going to do? I want to have people to advise her on different, what are they advising her on? So, but it worked. Because we didn't have the money to sustain that rascality. So we shut it down. Initially it was difficult. People were questioning it. People were saying no to it. But when they started seeing us clearing backlog of debts, pension, everything, they knew, okay, this money we're saving here, we're putting it here. And people could see it. And that goes with what happens even with government. If you say, okay, we're no longer going to have this, say subsidy, where are we investing what we used to have here? Once people can see that, okay, because maybe I remove this, we're going to use it to pursue insecurity, we're going to use it in agriculture, we're going to use it to do this, people will go with you. But when you say, stop this one, and you don't see where it's going, they say, I have a problem.
Thank you for that. I'm going to ask you one more question before I open it up to the audience that have questions to ask questions. But in Botswana, Vice President, I'm sorry I'm mentioning the country again, but you're here, so we're going to mention it. So it was the first time a little over a year ago when young people voted in a different government from a different party. It was through coalition and young people just taking the stand to say they want to do something different. Some years ago as well, we saw the same thing in Zambia, where the young people really translated their mass movement into actually helping to win office. I think in 2023, with your elections, I think people saw a glimmer of hope that this is possible. It's not like you didn't see it in 2015 when there was a change of party, but I think with your own candidacy, it sort of represented something a bit magical and just gave a lot of people hope. Now, the challenge has always been there's been mass movements, but how do you translate those mass movements into getting into political office, winning elections? You mentioned the examples of Botswana and Zambia. I wanted to ask you, given that you've led that movement and you were so close in 2023, can you share with us perhaps one or two lessons that you learned from that period?
You know, you use the two countries, which I'll tell you, when you have a huge, Vice President, I'm not trying to say that yours is different. They have a smaller ship. When you turn it around in the ocean, it's easier to turn around. When you have a huge, turn it around, it's not easy. So if you look at where Nigeria is, to turn it around, to get where we were able to get in Nigeria, means that if we're in a smaller space, we'd have turned it around more easily. It's a difficult one because the countries you mentioned, both are not up to 10% of Nigerian population. So it's a difficult thing. And we also have an entrenched system that have been criminalized. So you need to continue. All I'll say is that we started it. And we're now seeing more and more people who believe that we can do it better. We cannot continue this path. And if we continue, I believe We're going to get there. The most important thing is that it is possible.
Okay. That's good. Thank you for that. I'm going to open the floor for questions from the audience. And, well, the privilege of being the first person to raise your hand. So,
thank you very much. I'm tempted to say Your Excellency, because you've had an excellent time as a governor. Now, the issue of corruption dominated the 2015 election. And some people believe that the incumbent that won the election was actually keen and sincere in fighting corruption. But when corruption fought back, he could not stand the counterattack. I would need to know your views on how to deal with this entrenched, institutionalized way of doing things that is literally looking so huge that you will need a whole generation that are 25 years old or younger, the NSAS generation, to foment a quiet electoral revolution. Thank you.
Again, let me tell you, we're not trying to comment or reference the government you mentioned, because you see, people's life different. I always tell people, the General Buhari, let me not say it openly, who was there in the 80s wasn't the one that was there in 2015. The older a human being gets, the more you tend to be more, how do I say, relaxed and less competent in dealing with issues. You can fight corruption. And fighting corruption is critical to us, very critical. Corruption kills the three things that makes a society. It kills entrepreneurship. Nobody is entrepreneur in a corrupt place. It kills professionalism. I was in university in Nigeria, where university professors were paid 2,000 naira. In the 80s, the 2,000 naira then was about $4,000. So you had in Nsukka, the likes of Chinua Achebe, Chimamanda Adichie, and Father, all who people with first class names. We had them in ABU, we had them in everywhere, professors. People used to come to Nigeria for medical tourism from Arab countries, from Asian countries. Indians, Asians were looking for a job in Nigeria, in northern Nigeria, because they were paid 1,000 when it was $2,000. A lecturer can easily buy a car because then Peugeot produced in Kaduna was about 7,500. So their 6 months salary, they can buy a car. Today, the same lecturer is paid 400,000 naira a month, which is not about, I don't even know how to describe it in dollars, but I can tell you, it's just about, mainly about, how much is it? 250. About 200 and something dollars. So, and guess how much they sell a car today? It runs into hundreds of millions. As at the time I'm talking to you, members of House of Representatives then earn the same money as a professor. Today, just to give you an example, in my country, let me say Nigeria, the federal government of Nigeria bought vehicles for National Assembly members. Each car cost 160 million naira. for each person. The qualification to be member of House National Assembly is secondary school certificate. For you to be a professor, you need to go to university, master's, PhD, and at least 10 years qualification to become a professor. You are paid $400,000 a month, which is 4.8 million a year, call it 5 million. So if you decide to buy a car given to a member of National Assembly, whose qualification is class 5 in secondary school, it will take you 32 years without spending a penny of your money, 32 years, to buy such a car. Tell me how that professor can continue to teach and research. So it kills professionalism. You must dismantle it. And I can go on and on. It kills hard work. Because why would I be working hard when people are celebrating somebody who has stolen public money, is the one the society sees as a role model? He moves around in sophisticated car. While I was coming here now, I was telling them people in the car with me. I said, listen, you know the things that happen in Africa doesn't happen anywhere in the world. The plane assemble Dreamliner 787 in America is South Carolina, Charleston. That's the assembly plant. I said the governor of South Carolina doesn't even have a private jet bought with his own money. In Africa, that happens. And they said the state is doing well. How? When you have graduates who don't have jobs, you have doctors who don't have hospitals to work, you have nurses who don't have a place to work. So you can kill corruption. We will fight it head on. And there's so many Nigerians who want to fight it. I can tell you. Millions of them. All they need is that they need people who are committed, because what happens often is that somebody starts preaching rhetorics and everything, he goes in there, hey, it becomes the same thing. So you don't really want to. I work with people who were able to look in my face as governor and said, no, we must do this, because that's what we agreed. And there's so many of them. And that's all we need to do to fix the place.
Thank you for that. And we have our hands full. Another question, I'll take the lady over there, and then we'll come to you. You can state your name, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Canova. I'm from MSC. Mr. Obi, I've been enamored by you right from when you've been trying to change Nigeria. And my question is simple. Are you going for 2027?
Okay, before he answers that, can I take the right there? Over right there.
Hi, Mr. Toby. My name is Olusegun Aribido. I'm a Nigerian, as you can tell. I have a few questions. One is
Let's just do one.
one has to do with in the recent JAM results that was published. We saw the failure rate. So, what is your plan towards education? Because if we notice, most of the youth now, the value of education in Nigeria has dropped tremendously. So, what is your plan towards that?
Thank you. We'll let him answer those two, and then
Well, let me start with what you said about value of education. I've said it before. The more it's been shown, every study has shown that the more a country is educated, the more developed you are. It is a very critical thing, and that shows that education is not an expense, it's an investment. And you must invest in it. And it's one that you need to invest aggressively in Nigeria. The reason why, like you said, the standard will fall, I'm just giving you where a professor is, and that is the highest. So imagine what happens to teachers in primary school and secondary school. There's amount to nothing. I used to be in secondary school where my principal will go and buy a car or high purchase. There's no principal today in a secondary school who will go near where they sell car. Unless he wants to steal the car. So there's none. So these are things you need to know. You must prioritize what you want. It is a critical thing. When I spoke in Johannesburg recently, people say, oh, look at what I did. I said about, some say I'm demarketing Nigeria. That is not demarketing of Nigeria and Africa. The reality is there. You can compare it because nations were better just in 1990 have overtaken us. The question is to ask, what did they do? It is not rocket science. What did they do? They invested in education. Nothing else. There's nothing that made, whether it's China, Indonesia, and Vietnam that I used to compare, overtake us. Except that they go and check it. They invested in education, they invested in health, they invested in production. So that's how a country like, say, China, everybody now talks about. Just 1990, our per capita was 556, and their own was 317 per capita. And today, they are 13,000, and we are at 800 and something. How? What did they do? A country like Vietnam was just $99 in 1990 per capita, when we were 556. And today, they are nearly 5,000, and we're 800. You can't do, what did they do? That's the question. And that's why I'm taking time to go to them. I was in Indonesia this year, from 1st of February, visiting Minister of Education, Minister of Health, Minister of Small Village, Minister of this, went to see the Vice President under Widodo, went to see the Widodo, the President, and said, what did you do? It's not a simple, it's a simple thing. What did you do that we were better than you yesterday? And you find out it was investment in education. I should ask what will happen in 2027. We are at a stage where we are forming alliance, coming together of like minds, and we will decide. Because before the elite consensus, I'll say the gangsters that held everybody together, have been able to divide us using tribe, religion, everything. So I believe we have voted tribe. It didn't work. We voted religion. Now I think it's time to vote competence. Let's try this one. Because we have been able, so that's why we're coming together. That's why I said our alliance now will be alliance against hunger, insecurity, everything. And we have to document it. Everybody has to see it. It's no longer when we come together and vote Mr. Obi, and he goes in there and changes everything, and everybody's looking at him. No. We will not say 1, 2 is what we are going to do. And if we don't do it from day one, we'll disagree with you from day one. Because what happens most times in elections that somebody says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and when he goes in, he starts giving an excuse or start telling you what I saw when I entered there. What were you seeing when you were doing the promise? Because we didn't hire you. We don't want to hire people again to give us excuse. You want this job. So we don't want to hire you to remind us of what happened yesterday or the past. We want you to start solving. The job of a leader is to start solving problems and solutions and communicating them, not excuses, not blames, which is what you're getting today. So 2027, will depend on us coming together as the people and deciding that based on competence, capacity, compassion, character, we want to work with this person. And we take it from there. And we urge everybody to help. All of you have a role in it.
Thank you. We have very limited time. I will take one question over there. Stanley, and I'll take one in the middle. You. Sorry, guys. Okay, wait. We'll do 3 more. 3 more.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to listen to you once again. I'm part of those Nigerian youths that are Obi, but something has been happening in the past 2 to 3 weeks or last month that has struggled us, and we want to know how you and your potential alliance will counter this. There is an alliance of the gangsters going on and almost pushing Nigeria to the one-party state, almost. Where almost every week they are signing new people are defecting from one party to the ruling party. Like it's almost close to 30 governors, almost I don't know.
All of them.
All of them. Yes. So what is your plan and that of your potential alliance to counter this? Because it has made me lose faith. I'm a man of faith, but
Yeah. So we take the. Let's take one over there, and then we come back to the middle. So, wait. Let's do your lady over there, right there, and then there's a lot of questions. All of you, right there. All of you can.
Thank you very much. So, I'm from Kenya.
Yes.
Ethnicity is a problem. It's a cancer that is holding us back. It has played out with so many other African countries. Our neighbors talk about fighting based on ethnicity, right? And I want to know, we know Nigeria has 3 dominant tribes. From what I know, what are you going to do? What's your plan on uniting the country? And particularly, how are you going to appeal to the marginalized tribes that don't have a voice? Because there are some tribes I'm sure we don't have them. What are the people, Yoruba, that's what I know. So what are you going to do to unite them, give a voice to them? What are the tribes?
The day you said it is all over Africa. The day you have good governance, where people's talent and hard work will match up the opportunity, you dismantle this. There is tribalism, there's sectionalism all over the world. But once you start doing the right things, you will see dismantled. Even in our own case, in our constitution, there's even what they call national character and everything. And I can tell you, every tribe in Nigeria have competent people with capacity, with compassion, with character to drive the country. So it is easy to deal with it. But people need to see no tribe in Nigeria buys bread cheaper. No religion buys bread cheaper. So is there any conspiracy to continue the stealing? It only benefits them. We are now one of the hungriest countries of the world, just like Africa is, because I always refer to Africa. We shouldn't be. There's no way Africa is supposed to be a powerhouse for export of food. Africa is the second largest continent in the world, 30-point-something thousand square kilometers of land. But it will shock you. India is about 10% of African land size, about 3,000 square kilometers. We are 30,000. 30 million. India is 3 million. But India produces 5 times the amount of rice Africa produces, when they're just 10% of our land size. 91% of African science, but they produce more rice than Africa. Same thing goes to Nigeria. 60% of our land is uncultivated, arable land that you can turn into gold. I believe today Nigeria can make more money from agriculture than they make from oil. Oil is a diminishing asset that is dying. And you have huge one that our biggest state, I used to give example every day, a state called Niger State, 76 point something thousand square kilometers of land. They don't produce anything. Fertile land and is doing very well. When a tiny country like Netherlands has 10,000 square kilometers, if you minus water, is doing agricultural export of $120 billion in 2022. This big state is 2.5 times the size of Netherlands. We cannot continue that way. We need to fix it. We can go there. You will even see that a country like Ukraine at war gave us grain. The entire Ukraine is about 600,000 square kilometers. That is not up the size of northern Nigeria. We need to invest in agriculture. And we have resources to borrow and put it there. A bank of agriculture is there. There's competent people in the north who wants to work. There's a lot of them. So let's go and do the right thing. And once you start doing the right thing, you start killing this. There was a question there.
There was the one on the alliance of Gaza.
Let me tell you, it's actually good that they're all coming together. Because the election in 2027 will be Nigerians versus the government. So when they come together, it's easier to deal with all of them. Because we don't know where they belong. And we chill with them. So don't worry, let them come together. It's better they're all together at one place because we don't want them scattered. Let them come together and deal with them at once.
Yeah, we really must wrap up. I'll take that gentleman over there. His hand has been on for a while. Right there. Right there.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure and honor to be here. My name is Espoir. I'm from Congo. And Congo and Nigeria share the same problem, which is corruption.
And poverty.
You say the older you get, the less energetic you become against corruption. I'm hoping that you'll be a president in 2028. But what if 8 years pass and Peter Obi is not the president of Nigeria? What legacy are you leaving? Who is the next Peter Obi? Thank you.
Thank you. Can we get the young lady in front, right there? Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon, sir. My name is Farlo. I'm Nigerian as well. My question is regarding some of the issues you mentioned, the developmental and policy matters that you propose to implement if you were in leadership. A lot of them are predicated on electricity. According to the World Bank, Nigeria has the world's largest electricity access deficit. So over 80 million people have no access to grid electricity. Without light, things like education and healthcare, life expectancy are significantly reduced. If you were in power, how would you propose ameliorating this crisis? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take one here.
Okay, let me just, before I lost it, he said about the legacy where the next future will be. Let me tell you, there's quite a lot of young people across the whole Nigeria, from the south to the north, that I worked with today, that I can tell you that I will be able to continue where we stop. I've always said it. I'm not desperate to be Nigerian president. I'm desperate to see Nigeria work. Because we have all it takes to work. I've been all over the world. I've even, because of it, went to schools and everything and all that. Somebody I just asked me yesterday, he said, why do you go to all these schools? Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, Columbia. I said, well, listen, I wanted to know whether they have a different brain. But I went, I found out that there's nothing different. So why are we acting different? So you can't. improvement in electricity. In the past 5 to 6 years, from 2015 to about 2021, the countries that had the highest turnaround in electricity are actually within developing countries. India, Vietnam, Egypt. It was shocking. And I've been to them. That is not rocket science. It's something that is doable. India, let me leave. Country like Egypt, which is in Africa, moved from about 20,000 megawatts to nearly 50 now. They're even exporting power to Europe. It is not rocket science. And some of the companies that did it there, I was in Egypt. The companies were run by Egyptians. They are there. They're very serious. The president, the prime minister, everybody's all involved. They know what they're doing. They take it as serious and everything. The companies that were doing it there actually have the same type of contract in Nigeria, except that in Egypt, it was properly structured with sovereign guarantees. In our own, let me not say anything further. We will deal with it. And we have people to deal with it. There's nothing in generating power. And you can do it. You need embedded power, you need captive power, you need everything. Here in the UK, an airport like Gatwick just have one supply, embedded power. You have captive. There's so many things you can do. In today's world, in Morocco, they are dealing with issue of solar. So there's so many things you can do today to change the power situation. But you need to deal with the monster called corruption. It is very important. Nobody thinks in a corrupt country. Because everybody is thinking how to steal the next money. Especially when you become something you can celebrate. You know, it's a different thing that people have chosen not to celebrate stealing. Than a situation where stealing has become a source of celebration. So if you steal money, you can move around, buy best houses in Europe, in America, all over the world, live, fly private jets, move like a star, and people give you some titles. You come to a place, you're a role model. How can a thief be a role model? So these are things we need to dismantle. If we dismantle it, I can tell you we'll have power.
Thank you. We're almost done, and I'm not going to have a lot of friends after this is over because a lot of people are going to get answered questions. You have a question? There's one there, and then there's one for you. And then we'll wrap it up after that. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I'm a master's graduate here as well in negotiation originally. I wanted to ask you, so if you had one, would you have been able to enact all the things that you would have wanted? Would the power structures would they have allowed you to run? And would you say that there is indeed still a colonial power in the shadows that's still controlling African politics from behind? And how much can you actually say?
Yeah, let's get the next question, and then we're gonna let Mr. Pitobi give like a sort of a closing remarks, and then we'll wrap it up. We're really out of time. But they've been very generous in giving us a bit more time. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Ekoro Young. I'm from Bayelsa State. My points are very clear. The Excellency mentioned about education, and he said education is a problem. Education is one of the things that we need to work on. And I disagree with you in that point because the major problem Nigeria is facing today, sorry my voice is not too good. The major problem Nigeria is facing today is education. Because when you look at the olden days, our great grandfathers, all of them were going to farming, trading and fishing. But when education came on board and everybody now developed a mentality that you must have a certificate, that is when the Nigerian poverty came up. Because if you go to university today and you will not be expecting that person like the culture now. The graduates are not ready to go to farm. The graduates are not ready to farm. They are not ready to do fishing. They are not ready to carry out some activities anymore. A graduate is a graduate, a big man. You have to sit somewhere and wait for someone to employ. And that's a major problem the whole Africa is facing. Thank you.
Is that a question?
Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you the okay. Thank you. Let me answer you. The opposite is the problem. Education is not the problem. It's the quality and the type of education. You have farmers today, even in the UK here, who are also doing far better than those who you mentioned, who are looking for white-collar jobs. I can tell you, who are looking for white-collar jobs. There's so many farmers that are doing very well and everything. You need to even be educated to make the farm to be more productive today. Without education, you're talking about subsistence farming that wasn't able to feed people. You can do it better today. You have corporations being supported by farmers. Education remains critical. The only reason, I gave you 4 countries before, and I can tell you, those 4 countries surpassed Nigeria in terms of per capita, which is the critical measure. In terms of HDI, you can go and look at countries that are called China, Vietnam, Indonesia. In 1990, there's no clear documented measure of Human Development Index, which is the most critical measure today. Nigeria and these 3 countries mentioned were what they call low medium. Today, the 3 of them are high. Nigeria is still low. And if you look at the literacy level, the 3 have passed 90%. We are still hovering around at 50 something. You can look at all the measures. What did they do? Education, health, and investing in critical areas that put their people out of poverty. If you don't, there's no way. There was one of no, the question from
Excuse me.
he was asking, what is it that
Colonial powers.
well, you know, I'm one person who don't believe in that. We're not the only continent that was colonized. India was. So is every other Asian country. I can tell you, I always tell people, one of the greatest schools in India is called Bombay Institute of Technology. It's produced the billionaires and all the high-tech people that we celebrate today in India. That school was built by support of colonial masters. Around the same time they built Yaba College of Technology. No, I'm just telling you. One has collapsed. And the other one. People think Nigeria in the 60s, 70s had one of the fastest vaccine facilities. We actually have vaccine production facility, which we use to fight chicken pox and all the small diseases. And it was established years before they had serum that was the highest vaccine facility in the world was established. So what happened to our own? It was shut down because somewhere in late 80s and early 90s, somebody said, we need to retool. Let's buy new machines. And the government bought new machines. Several years ago, they're still in crane in crates. In Yaba. So we need to dismantle corruption, start governance, and it must come from somebody who is, keep saying, competent, who have compassion, who knows what is expected. Today, what you see is that people will rather tell you, oh, we are building a governor's or government house or lodge or this, than invest in education. If you go to America where we're celebrating, a state like Massachusetts where you have Harvard, MIT, and top schools, they don't have a governor's lodge. There's no government house. If you're elected governor, you stay in your house. And look at what they did. They have invested in critical areas. You cannot stop education. Even here. So don't talk about your colonial master. They didn't teach you anything. 10 Downing Street is only 3 rooms. 3 rooms, three. If you have more children than that, if you have high number of children, like Tony Blair had, he had to use number 11 because they had more than 2 children. So he moved to number 11. So it's not a place for you to have a large family. So this is a structure. And if you go just a small building like this that is in the middle of this, a small terrace house, actually.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So, what we would take any more questions? Well, if you
because of the minutes.
Would you like to ask your
Well,
question?
I want to push His Excellency a little bit on the education. Every university, everywhere you go, you see high qualified Nigerians. And I don't have the figure of literacy in Nigeria in terms of the secondary high schools. The debate of education, there are some countries, like you said, that succeeded. But what they did was not only education.
No, it wasn't only education.
Yes, so there was thinking ahead, 10 years ahead, the type of where these education people go. And the public policy, where industries, FDI, these kind of things. So I mean, in my country as well, a small country, everybody is studying. They're becoming studying. So that's where I think.
No, the education has to come with proper education with skill. Okay. We're not talking about just education for certificate's sake.
Yeah.
You waste everybody's time. If you have to do it properly with skill and everything, you will see the impact. And they have to come with other policies that are measurable and everything. So they didn't just pay attention to education and everything. And yes, you're right that everywhere you go, you see highly sophisticated and educated Nigerians, like they are here. I can tell you that if you have 900 Nigerians who are in this hall, who are being educated today in UK, by the time they finish, 10% is not going to go to Nigeria. And that goes with what people talk about. When we talk about foreign direct investment, FDI, and one person who is not worried about it. If you go and study the turnaround of China, India, Asian countries, they came from their people who were in schools, happened to be in all these schools in the 90s and 80s. All the people, my neighbors, when I lived in this country for 15 years, my neighbors have all gone back to their country, Indians. They were educated here. So, don't talk about FDI. Fix the country. Provide security. Provide everything. FDI is like honey and bee. If you put honey here, lock these doors, bees will come in. They'll find their way inside because there's something here to take. So fix the countries. If we secure Nigeria today, the first foreign direct investment we will get are these people here. Because they want to come back and invest. They will make more money. But nobody's going to make money when you're not sure whether your life will be safe, because you need to enjoy the investment first. So you have to invest it where there's no lower return. So fixing it is important. And I believe in my final contribution that all of you have to be involved. Don't think it's going to be done by maybe Colonel Five, or it's going to be done by this. No. All of us are involved. All of you, especially the younger ones, they have to be involved. This is time for you to help to stop this, or what is happening today. The abuse, the stealing, the criminality must stop. The society you are allowing us, who are there today, to abuse, to criminalize, will take its revenge on you. God bless you.
Thank you.